We are in Desjardins' third chapter of Introduction to Business Ethics, and we are doing the fourth aspect by our count, in which we discuss the last two remaining models of social responsibility, the stakeholder social responsibility model and the strategic sustainability model of social responsibility. We'll also look at the criticisms of the two models. And to begin with, we want to ask, what is a stakeholder anyway? Okay, let's move into the discussion or lecture. Stakeholder social responsibility model. The stakeholder model turns an entirely new page in the development of the social responsibility story. It introduces a new concept, the concept of the stakeholder. A stakeholder is anyone who is affected by the actions of the firm, as well as anyone who is important for the operation of the firm. There's a wider definition of the stakeholder that includes just about anyone in the world as a stakeholder, especially in our global age. Everyone is affected by what any firm does, really. There's also a narrower definition, and we will work with that definition. The narrower definition illustrates the idea of a stakeholder much more clearly. According to the narrow definition of the stakeholder, these are the principal stakeholders: shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, local community. All of these groups are significantly affected by what the firm does, as well as are necessary for the functioning of the firm, right? Without these guys, the firm would not be able to function, and they are most directly affected by what the firm does. And to the extent that without them, that the firm would not be able to function, to the extent that the firm needs all of them, they all have an equally important relationship to the firm, unlike the standard economic model in which shareholders are treated as the most important contributors to the firm. The stakeholder model rejects the priority of the shareholder view. It argues that all shareholders have the same status. All are equally important and necessary for the operation of the firm and are affected by its well-being. The firm is to be operated for the sake of all of the stakeholders equally on the stakeholder model. It is a Kantian view. All persons are to be treated as ends in themselves. It is in direct opposition to the standard economic model. On the standard economic model, all other stakeholders are treated as a means to the ends of the shareholders, whereas the stakeholder model treats all of the stakeholders as ends in themselves. Right? On the economic model, the firm is operated solely for the benefit of the shareholders, whereas on the stakeholder model, the firm is operated for everyone's benefit intentionally. But what does it mean that the stakeholder model does not aim to operate the firm for the maximization of profits, but rather for benefiting all of the stakeholders with equal consideration? It means two things. One, it means that the firm operates in order for the firm itself to flourish. That would mean that the firm is operated sustainably so that it is around in the long run, since it provides an important service to all of the stakeholders. It also means that the firm stays competitive and provides quality products to consumers, as well as quality wages for employers and shareholders. The shareholders are seen as participants in the firm and are compensated for their participation like everyone else. They are not the owners. They do not have priority over anyone else. In fact, it seems that the firm is owned, to whatever extent we want to speak of ownership, by the community of stakeholders, all of them, since the firm is operated for all of their benefit, and shareholders are not technically owners. Two, the stakeholder model operation also means that it is for the good of the firm. And that means that at some point, one stakeholder may receive more benefits than another, while at another point, the stakeholder that was previously benefited less will be benefited more. For example, it may make sense to raise the prices to consumers at some point in order to benefit employees, while at another time, it may make sense to cut employee wages to sell more products at a lower price. And the same with similar trade-off among other stakeholders. We are aiming to do what is best for the firm on the stakeholder model. Much like the employees at the Ford factories who took a voluntary cut during the crisis of 2008 and have recently, in 2023, secured a raise, albeit both through the efforts of the United Auto Workers Labor Union rather than through the management. Right? So we can view that as a stakeholder model event. In 2008, it makes sense to benefit consumers or shareholders more. In 2023, it makes sense to return many of those benefits back to the employees. Makes sense from what standpoint? From the standpoint of the firm itself that aims to serve everyone, the employees, the employers, the shareholders, the local community, the suppliers, and so on. But in sum, let us be mindful of that the main point in favor of the stakeholder model is this. It respects the autonomy of all agents in the Kantian fashion by treating each of the stakeholders as an end in itself and not as a means to the ends of any other stakeholders. Again, on the economic model that exists solely for the benefit of the shareholder, all other stakeholders are means to the ends of benefiting shareholders. Whereas here, each of the stakeholders on the stakeholder model, each of the stakeholders is for their own benefit, since the firm is supposed to benefit all of the stakeholders equally. Criticism of the stakeholder social responsibility model. The criticism of the stakeholder model is practical. It's a lot less clear how to operate this firm on the model that simply maximizes profits. Sorry. It's a lot less clear how to operate this firm than on the model of a firm that simply maximizes profits, such as the standard economic model. This trade-off between benefiting different stakeholders in different times and how much, all of that is very hard to calculate. It's so much more difficult than what a CEO does on the standard economic model, simply maximize profits. How is the CEO to know how to sacrifice, for now, the interests of some stakeholders in order to get them back later? The less clear it is how to operate the firm, the greater is the chance of error and unfortunate outcome. The practical criticism of the stakeholder model, right? Practically speaking, how does one operate it? And we are on to the last of the social responsibility models that Chapter 3 covers, the strategic social responsibility model. The strategic social responsibility model is back in the priority of the shareholder camp, but with a twist, right? Stakeholder model stood out of the priority of the shareholder view, and with the strategic model, we're back in it. But there's a twist. On the strategic social responsibility model, there's an argument that a firm is socially responsible when it provides a socially responsible product, even if it operates for maximization of profits to shareholders. The claim here is that a socially responsible product can be provided for profit, right? So the firm does not seek to benefit all of its stakeholders, but shareholders. However, it is doing so by producing a socially responsible product that benefits everyone, right? And I guess the socially responsible product is a means to the ends of the shareholders rather than an end in itself. A firm can provide a socially responsible product, one needed by society, directly. Say a firm produces medical supplies for basic surgery. Basic medicine is a societal need and is a socially responsible product, right? So that's what we mean by providing a socially responsible product, one that is needed by society. Or a firm can produce a socially responsible product indirectly. It can produce whatever product it provides in a manner that is environmentally sustainable. Society as a whole is interested in environmental sustainability. For example, a firm produces those medical supplies by using as many renewable materials as possible and makes provisions for recycling the non-renewable components, right? That would be a strategic kind of an operation that aims to be socially beneficial, though not in the sense of the stakeholder theory. The usual example of the strategic model is banks that specialize in giving loans to groups who have trouble getting loans from mainstream banks, ethical, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, etc. Those strategic banks have found a way of giving the socially responsible microloans in a profitable manner. They found their niche in the market. The bigger banks maximize their profit by giving loans to the usual and safe applicants and reject the various minority and riskier group applicants. They need not bother with the latter loans as they can make quicker and larger profits with traditional loans. But these microloan banks specifically aim to provide those loans that are needed by society for various minority groups whom the mainstream banks sidestep. Criticism of the strategic social responsibility model is this. It, a possible criticism of the strategic model is that it may not care for the well-being of all of its stakeholders, as it provides a socially useful product. Low wages may be paid to employees, for example, right? As we're providing those basic surgery tools, a socially needed product, we may be paying low wages to our employees. That would fail by the stakeholder model, but it would pass according to the strategic sustainability model. We are now done with chapter 3 and the 5 social responsibility models.